الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد كمثل غيث أعجب الكفار نباته ثم يهيج فتراه مصفرا ثم يكون حطاما وفي الآخرة عذاب شديد ومغفرة من الله ورضوان وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس شبابك قبل هرمك وصحتك قبل سقمك وغناك قبل فقرك وفراغك قبل شغلك وحياتك قبل موتك أو كما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أستغفر الله من قول بلا عمل لقد نسبت به نسلا لذو عقومي أمرتك الخير لكن ما أتمرت به وما استقمت فما قولي لك استقيمي يا رب بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم. Most respected ulama kiram, brothers and elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The ayah of the Quran Majid which I had recited before you, Allah Ta'ala outlines the lifespan of insan, of mankind, from the beginning stages right up until the end and beyond into the akhirah as well. Allah Ta'ala says that remember, know well that this worldly life is la'ib wa lahu. It is play, it is amusement, it is futility. The next stage of life, wazina, it is adornment, decoration. A person grows up, he takes cognizance and notice of himself, his appearance, etc. And then he grows further, وَتَفَاخُرٌ بَيْنَكُمْ. A person begins to boast, we begin mutual boasting amongst ourselves. Thereafter, وَتَكَاثُرٌ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَوْلَادِ. A person, mutual rivalry in as far as his wealth is concerned, his children is concerned. A person has one property, he's boasting about it, he is in competition with another person, one business into two businesses, one car into two cars, three cars, etc. So takathurun fil amwali wal awlad, a person grows elder and he is rejoicing and he's boasting over his offspring, his grandchildren, fil awlad, how many grandchildren he has and what they have achieved in their lives, etc. Allah Ta'ala then draws a similitude and a comparison of this worldly life and he says, كَمَثَلِ غَيْثٍ أَعْجَبَ الْكُفَّارَ نَبَاتُهُ. This is like a rain which falls down, and through the means of this rain, lush plants and vegetation grows. And thereby the farmers become very, very happy, they become enamored, they become amazed at the beautiful crop that is growing. But not long thereafter, ثُمَّ يَهِيجُ فَتَرَاهُ مُصْفَرًّا. Then this vegetation dries up. And it becomes yellowish in color, ثُمَّ يَكُونُ حُطَامًا. And before long it is reduced to butts, nothing left of it. وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ عَذَابٌ شَدِيدٌ. In the akhirah, Allah Ta'ala says there is severe punishment. And on the other hand, there is مَغْفِرَةٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانٌ. There is forgiveness from Allah Ta'ala and there is His pleasure. That person will understand his maqsad in life, his object in life, and he will pass his life in the obedience of Allah Ta'ala. Then for him there is maghfiratun min Allahi wa ridwan. There is forgiveness, there is the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. And that person who will become enamored, like those farmers who became enamored with the vegetation and the crops, become amazed and he will fall into all types of sin and vice, the glitter and glamour of this world, whatever it has to throw at us. And he will indulge and engage in it, then for him is fil akhirati adabun shadeed, very, very severe punishment. Allah Ta'ala save us. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Allah Ta'ala ends the ayat saying that this worldly life is nothing but commodities of deception. Outlining the object and the purpose of our life, why have we been sent into this world for this period of time which we have been given, and what are our objects, what do we aim to achieve. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also corroborates this ayah also in a hadith in which he says that take benefit of 5 things before 5. Take benefit of your youth before old age, your good health before sickness overcomes you, your affluence and your wealth before you are stricken by poverty, and your free time before you become preoccupied in work, etc. And the last part, وَحَيَاتَكَ قَبْلَ مَوْتِكَ, take benefit, take advantage of your life prior to your death overcoming you. Hazrat Hassan Basri rahmatullah alayhi says, أَدْرَكْتُ أَقْوَامًا, I have met such people, كَانُوا عَلَىٰ أُوقَاتِهِمْ أَشَدَّ مِنْكُمْ حِرْصًا عَلَىٰ دَرَاهِمِكُمْ وَدَنَانِيرِكُمْ. I have met such people, they were so meticulous about the time spent in their lives, every minute, every hour passing in their lives. They were more meticulous over their time than what you are over your wealth, your dirhams and your denanir, your gold and your silver, etc. They looked after their time. Time is the capital, the greatest, the most valuable asset of man in this world. Ibn Masud radhiyallahu anhu also says, مَا نَدِمْتُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ نَدْمِي عَلَى يَوْمٍ غَرَبَتْ شَمْسُهُ نَقَصَ فِيهِ أَجَلِي وَلَمْ يَزِدْ فِيهِ أَعْمَلِي. Abdullah ibn Masud radhiyallahu anhu, great Sahabi, he mentions that I have not had so much that amount of regret as I have had over that day where the sun had set on that day. My lifespan had been cut short, and my a'mal did not increase in any way. The greatest regret is when a day passes and my a'mal do not increase. I do not come closer to Allah Ta'ala, and that day has passed by. What a loss. Allah Ta'ala takes a qasam one time, Surah Al-Asr, Wal-Asri, Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Ulama explain, just to understand this temporary, transitory nature of this world and the everlasting life of the akhirah. And the example is given of the entire world, which is filled with seeds. But for our understanding, I'll say just as masjid, or just one classroom filled with mustard seeds, sesame seeds, and a bird has to come, ulama mentioned once in 1,000 years, I will say once in 100 years also, once in 10 years also. A bird has to come and just take one seed from that room, from that classroom, and fly away. And after 10 years it will come back and take another seed, and after 10 years it will come back and take another seed. The day will finally come when those seeds, Allah Ta'ala knows how many generations thereafter, the entire classroom full of seeds, small seeds. But the day will come when those seeds will deplete, and the time will come to an end. It will be, that classroom will be empty. But the akhirat is such, it will never ever come to an end. So very short-lived this life of this world, and the life of the akhirah, very, very everlasting. Two ni'mats Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has mentioned, ni'matan maghbunun fihima kathirun minan nas. Many people are duped, they are deceived with regards to these two ni'mats, and that is the sihhat wal faragh, their good health and the free time which they have. They let it go to waste, they do not take advantage of it. Min husni islamil mar'i tarkuhu ma la ya'ni. Another hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that of the beauty of a person's deen and Islam is that he totally leaves out everything that has no benefit. Ma la ya'ni, la'ib and lahu, play and amusement, it has no benefit, not in dunya also, not in this world, no benefit, and no benefit in akhirat as well. So we have before us the World Cup, which everyone is speaking about. And once we've understood this aspect, our purpose, our object in life, and the value of every second in the life of a mu'min, then that is enough reason for us to understand where we stand as believers with regards to the World Cup. There are many reasons which I will quote why we should not be following or spectating or following the scores in any way or supporting this World Cup in any way. But suffice to say, this one reason is enough. Understanding our object, who we are, believers in Allah Ta'ala, in Akhirat, our object in this world, and the value of time. So the amount of time that goes into watching these games, etc., following the scores, and it totally consumes a person, there is enough reason for us to totally abhor and to condemn what is happening, what is taking place. Nevertheless, other reasons will be cited. Another reason that ulama have mentioned is that of music, that generally, or it goes without saying that in all of these events, it will not go by without some music. We are aware as well that there are live bands and there are music and dancing taking place in the opening ceremony and throughout. So therefore the hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that music is such that it sows hypocrisy in the heart of a person. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has also mentioned to this effect that he was commanded by Allah Ta'ala to come and destroy musical instruments. So music alone is another great reason, one alone sufficient reason for us not to be watching or taking part in these events in any way, where Allah Ta'ala is being disobeyed and the wrath of Allah Ta'ala is coming down, the anger of Allah Ta'ala. Another reason ulama cite is that of salah, that it is not uncommon that a person will forego his salah. Sometimes the match is played in a different time zone, a different country in the world, and it perhaps here in our country might be midnight or 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. It's not uncommon to hear of a person waking up at that early part of the morning, watching the match of his favorite team, and then letting Fajr go by and sleeping through Fajr. Whereas Salah, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has mentioned in the hadith to this effect that it is the divining line, the distinguishing factor between Iman and Kufr, belief and disbelief. Another hadith of Nabi Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he says that a person who misses a single Salah a single salah, it is as if this person has lost his entire family and his entire wealth. Wealth, we understand, perhaps today there are sales taking place in the different companies and the different stores, etc. Certain stores had opened at midnight already. So we understand that to save 1,000 rand on this item, 2,000 rand, I want to get it 2,000 rand cheaper, a person will sacrifice and stand in that line from 12 midnight. But here Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying, miss a single salah, and it is as if you have not lost just 1,000 or 2,000 or 100,000 or 200,000 for that matter. You have lost your entire family, your entire wealth. So salah is foregone as well in this hype, etc. of watching the games and the matches. The next reason is that of idolizing and hero worshipping the fusaq, people who reject Allah Ta'ala, reject akhirat, they hate Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. With regards to this, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned in a hadith to this effect that when a fasiq, when an open sinner is praised, then Allah Ta'ala becomes angered and the arsh of Allah Ta'ala actually shakes. Another hadith to this effect, man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum. That person who will wear those jerseys and those skippers outwardly in support of those teams with that name of that fasiq, that sinner, that disbeliever in Allah Ta'ala on his back. Then Allah Ta'ala says, man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum, that this person may be raised on the day of Qiyamah amongst those people. So very, very severe warnings. Mufti Saleji, Ibrahim Saleji of Isipingo Beach, Naman Barakatum, once mentioned as well of two youngsters who would attend his majlis on a regular basis, and after a while he found that they were not coming anymore. So on one occasion he met one of the youngsters and he inquired that you used to come to the majlis with a friend of yours. I don't see you any longer. I don't not see your friend either. So he explained that this friend of mine had passed away. One day he came home and he just complained to his family and he said, call the ambulance. And they told him, what is wrong with you? You are fine, you're walking, you're speaking. He said, no, call the ambulance, I'm not well. And he insisted, and then eventually they called the ambulance, but outwardly there was nothing wrong with this person. And eventually he went into the ambulance and he did not live long thereafter. But it is mentioned that just before he passed away, he raised his hand and he took the name of one of the sports stars that he would love and he said, this is my idol, and with that he passed away. Without the kalima, saying that this is the effect that these things have on us, on our youngsters, etc. Rattling off the names of the stars, of the players. We take it lightly, it's so common, so we don't give it much regard, but it is very, very serious indeed. Another reason ulama have given is that of alcohol. Hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in this regard, that the manufacturer, the transporter, the seller, the buyer, the one who serves the alcohol, all of them under the curse of Allah Ta'ala. So this also is common, alcohol being sold and drunk, etc. And then zina of the eyes. Here also we know this invites the wrath and anger of Allah Ta'ala. And when watching this as well, there is zina of the eyes in the sense that the aura and what we call the satar or the aura of a man is exposed in that soccer kit above the knees. Anything from the navel to the knee should be covered. So that is open. Besides that, if we are watching from afar, so many miles away on the TV screens, etc., then also they are generally the cameraman will focus on people of different genders, women, men alike. So there also zina of the eyes taking place, again inviting the wrath and the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mixed gatherings which take place there, everyone is all together, male, female together, again inviting the wrath of Allah Ta'ala. And the next aspect, which I will go a bit into, is that of extravagance. It is common knowledge that Qatar has spent $220 billion on this World Cup, which will last for approximately 28, 29, 30 days, 1 month. Let us do a bit of a calculation. At the moment, with the rand dollar, one dollar costs you approximately 18 rands. So if you multiply the $220 billion, you're looking at plus minus 4 trillion rands. Just put this into perspective. When the World Cup was held here in 2010, they spent 9 billion rand. Compare that to 4 trillion rands. And I will go deeper into it as well. That at the moment in Turkey, there are 7 million refugees, while Qatar only has 189. No time, no money for the refugees, for the Syrian refugees. 189 you have in your country, while 7 million are suffering in inhumane, undignified circumstances in Turkey. They're trying their best to try and give them the dignity and the respect that they deserve, but that's as much as they can do. 7 million refugees. If we were to take this $220 billion or 4 trillion rands, a 1 million rand house, you would be able to house 4 million families. 4 of those, there are 7 million refugees. 4 million families, not people. 4 million, all that entire, they call it the largest humanitarian crisis in the world at the moment. Yemen and Syria are going into winter, bitter cold. You look at the adverts, they talk of 270 rand for a blanket. You could have given 4 million families a home which costs 1 million rand each. Okay, what do they need with a 1 million rand home? Many of us don't live in a 1 million rand home. Give them a house, 500,000 rand. You could have housed not 8 million people, 8 million families. Half that, 250,000 rand house, you could have housed 16 million families. Half that, a house costing 125,000 rand, you could have housed 31 million families. A house worth 60,000 rand, 63 million families, you could have given them a roof over their head. A 30,000 rand house, 126 million families have a shelter and a roof over their head. 2 days ago, an advert by one of the relief workers, welfare organizations in our country, speaking about Pakistan. They are asking for 3,000 rands to provide a shelter. 3,000 rands only. What a shelter? It must be a tent. 3,000 rands. Just to give them that privacy and the dignity that they deserve. That's the plight of the Ummah around the world. Mind you, that $220 billion could have provided over 1 billion of those shelters. We are just over 1 billion Muslims in the whole world. If this is not a disservice to the Ummah, we go out selling burgers, trying to raise funds for Palestine. How can we be supporting this Palestinian cause and at the same time support this? Hypocrisy at its height. I can go on. Yesterday, a relief worker during an interview in Afghanistan mentioned that he went to the mountains and he says there are elderly women, etc. who cannot come down to get the clean water. I find it hard to believe, and you're going to find it hard to believe, but this is what he said. There's sewage water all over the place. They use that sewage water, they boil it, and they make food. And let me tell you about Umar bin Abdul Aziz, regarded to be the 5th righteous Khalifa, a Tabi'i. During his time, his son was getting married. His son requested, as was the rule, the custom, it was his decree that anyone who is in need, you come to the Baytul Mal, the public treasury, and we see to your expenses for your nikah. The son of this Khalifa was in need. He came and asked for an allowance from the Baytul Mal for his nikah. His father, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, refuses. He gets angry. He says, I will not give you this. For one reason, this is your second nikah. You already have a wife. And there are children of the Muhajirin who cannot afford one nikah. You want money, sell your possessions and pay for your own nikah. This was the condition of the son of the Khalifa. Yahya bin Sa'id was sent by Umar bin Abdul Aziz to go and collect zakat here in Africa. He goes, he collects zakat. The level of justice of Umar, of the leaders of the time, Umar bin Abdul Aziz. He collects the zakah. Now he's looking for recipients to distribute that zakah. He cannot find a single person who is in need in the ummah. Each one has got sufficiency because of the grants given to them by Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Eventually, what does he do with the zakah money? He purchases slaves and he emancipates them, he frees them. That was the condition. There was not a single person who was in need of accepting zakah. And today we have this amount of wealth and resources to throw away, and yet the ummah is in such a plight and suffering in such conditions, inhumane conditions. Nevertheless, someone may say, just the last point, that look, they are reading Quran at the opening ceremony and etc. They are giving dawah and so many people have accepted Islam. I ask you, not far away in Malawi, in Mozambique, there are entire villages turning murtad, turning apostate, renegade, turning away from Islam for a bag of rice. Offer them a bag of flour or grain, and they will say what you want them to say. Jesus is Lord, etc. And we're speaking about the few, a handful that are accepting Islam in Qatar. On that point, something to understand as well, this aspect of da'wah and propagating towards Islam. On one occasion, Mufti Taqi Uthmani Down Barakatuh mentions that Allama Yusuf bin Nori, great muhaddith of his time, in Islamabad he was invited to to a presentation before the Islamic Advisory Council. And on the second day, he was requested that, look, Hazrat, if you give a bayan, we will televise it, we'll video it, and then it will go to so many thousands of people, so many will benefit. On that occasion, he mentioned this, giving da'wah using the wrong means. He said, listen well, we have been mukallaf, we are duty bound to propagate deen. Deen gives us the command, we've got to propagate deen, definitely. But using the permissible means. We are not being made mukallaf, we are not duty bound to propagate deen using impermissible means. And then he says, deen has given us the command to propagate deen, it has also taught us the method of propagating deen. So we will only use the permissible means. And then he further says, one person who accepts Islam through the permissible means is better than hundreds of people accepting Islam through impermissible means. And then he says that tomorrow we will use singing girls, music, dancing, movies, and anything that comes to our mind, impermissible, just in the name of giving dawah and propagating, calling people towards Islam. And this will not hold weight in the sight of Allah Ta'ala, because that which we wish to propagate, we are actually trampling upon. So very strong words coming from him, and Ilyas Rahmatullah Alayhi, the reviver of the effort of Tabligh, says three things in your effort of dawah. If you have three things in it, la yufdi ila al-fasadi abada. You'll never see corruption and strife. Number one, your niyat needs to be correct. Totally for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. Not that if I give dawah to this nation, tomorrow when there's an unrest in the country and looting in the country, then they might save me because now they are one of us. We might be spared. No. For the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala, so that this person is not mukhallad fi nar. He does not reside forever thereafter in the fire of Jahannam. We will give him dawah. Number one, niyat must be correct. Number two, what you are calling towards must be correct. Quran, Sunnah, etc. You cannot be calling towards something which is incorrect. And number three, the tariqah and the method which you utilize, the means which you utilize also has to be correct. In our young days, a simple example for all of us to understand. You may have read about Robin Hood. Robin Hood very basically was a person who had a very noble intention. What he wanted to do? He wanted to empower the weak and the needy, the indigent, the poor. But what method did he try to utilize? He was going to steal from the rich. He was going to steal from the rich to pass that wealth on, not for himself, but to give it to the poor. I ask you today, if anyone says, allow me to steal from you, but my niyat is pure, I want to give it to the poor, will we ever accept? Or he says, I myself am needy, so I'll steal from you. We don't accept it. So why do we accept it in deen? Nevertheless, we may be so far away from these things that are happening, the World Cup, etc. And we may feel, I'm not there, I'm not in the music, I'm just spectating. So listen to this hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I will conclude inshallah. إذا عملت الخطيئة في الأرض من شهدها فكرهها كان كمن غاب عنها ومن غاب عنها فرضيها كان كمن شهدها. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to this effect, that when sins are being perpetrated in the world, and the one who witnesses it, for whatever reason he is forced, he is there, he cannot help it, etc. But he detests it, he hates it in his heart. Then كان كمن غاب عنها, it is in the sight of Allah Ta'ala as if this person didn't actually attend it, he wasn't actually present. On the other hand, we, so many miles away, the person man ghaba anha, we are absent from there, we are very, very far away. But we are spectating it, we are watching it, we are following it, etc. We are supporting it. Then kana kaman shahidaha. It is as if in the sight of Allah Ta'ala, we are those who have actually supported it, we have actually witnessed it. So life is short. Let us spend our life in the obedience of Allah Ta'ala. Let us understand our priorities in life. Allah Ta'ala is shakur. It may be more difficult for some compared to others. You may have been following it for years on end, etc. You have your favorite teams. Some perhaps didn't take an interest from day one, so it's not very difficult for them. But Allah Ta'ala is shakur. Remember these leaders that we are speaking about that are squandering the wealth and the resources of the Muslimin, they are a result of our actions. A'malukum, ummalukum. We can sit and point fingers, but they are a direct result of our actions. When our actions are not in conformity with the Sharia, then such leaders are placed over us who will not care for us, they will show no compassion, no pity for us, for our youngsters, for the elderly, etc. So let us at least show this amount of solidarity with the poor and the needy around the world, and do not support this event in any way. Do not make an effort, inshallah, and do not keep the scores, etc., keeping the needy ummah and the plight of the ummah in mind. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.